Hello, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Chen, for the introduction. I'm going to be talking about the 2018 NAEP Oral Reading Fluency Study. It fits right into the theme of the Reading Summit because, as the subtitle says, the results provide new information, and I think very important information on the reading skills of fourth grade students performing below NAEP Basic in reading. Why was this study needed? More than 30% of fourth graders in public schools performed below NAEP Basic in reading in the 3 NAEP assessments that preceded the 2018 ORF. 32% or 33% in 2013, 15, and 17. The percentage below NAEP Basic in public schools increased significantly to 35% in 2019 compared to 2017, 15, and 13. Of particular concern is the fact that Black students and Hispanic students are overrepresented in the below NAEP Basic group. Based on data from the 2019 NAEP Reading Assessment, among Black students, 52% were represented in the below NAEP Basic group, and Hispanic students represented 45% compared to 23% of white students. For many years, policymakers and educators have asked, why do so many students perform below NAEP Basic? We only knew that these students couldn't do what students at the basic and higher levels could do, such as making inferences and drawing conclusions. There is no achievement level description for below basic, as some of you may know. We wanted to know whether these students were having difficulty reading words with sufficient accuracy and speed. There is a large body of research that suggests that fast and accurate word reading is necessary for reading comprehensions. Students who read words quickly and accurately can conserve cognitive resources that can be applied to comprehension. Oral reading fluency is the ability to read connected texts aloud with accuracy, speed, and proper expression. And by connected text here, I mean paragraphs and passages. In addition to oral reading fluency, we measured 2 foundational skills. These are skills that provide the foundation for oral reading fluency. Word reading, or word recognition, as some people call it, is the ability to recognize familiar written words with speed and accuracy. When reading familiar words, students usually rely primarily on orthographic memory. That is, their memory of how the words are spelled. Word reading ability is foundational not only for oral reading fluency, but also for reading comprehension. Without fast and accurate word reading, comprehension cannot occur. Phonological decoding is the ability to pronounce unfamiliar words based on a knowledge of the relationships between letters and sounds. To measure students' ability to read unfamiliar words, it was necessary to use pseudo words. These are made up but pronounceable words like JAD, J-A-D. When students develop phonological decoding skills, they can, in essence, teach themselves how to pronounce the many unfamiliar words they encounter in print. This ability has been called the sine qua non of reading acquisition. The study used a nationally representative sample of 1,800 fourth graders from 180 public schools. Low-performing students were oversampled. We oversampled schools where at least 75% of the students were eligible for the National School Lunch Program. We gave them twice the chance of selection. These students typically perform at a lower level than their counterparts. We then weighted the sample to represent the total population of fourth grade public school students. So what did students do for the ORF study, students first took the fourth grade NAEP reading assessment. They orally read 4 text passages of 152 to 162 words. They also orally read a word list consisting of real English words and a pseudo word list. To gain a better understanding of the fluency and foundational skills of students in the below NAEP Basic, we evenly divided it into 3 subgroups based on their NAEP reading scores: below NAEP Basic, high, medium, and low. Black students were overrepresented in the lowest performing subgroup. Overall, 1 out of every 5 Black fourth grader, or 20%, performed in the below NAEP Basic low subgroup. Okay, now let's look at some more data. Here we see the difference in passage reading words correct per minute, which is abbreviated as WCPM. The x-axis is the NAEP achievement levels. The y-axis is word correct per minute. All adjacent comparisons are statistically significant, and all the analyses were based on the average of the 4 text passages. Now, this bar shows a strong and consistent relationship between the ORF passage reading in terms of words correct per minute and the NAEP reading achievement levels. So, for example, those who performed at the below NAEP Basic low level read only 71 words correct per minute with the lowest accuracy and speed. What's especially striking here is the wide variation within the below NAEP Basic group. Notice that the difference between below NAEP Basic low, 71 words correct per minute, and below NAEP Basic high, 108, is 37 words correct per minute. This is the same as the difference between the basic, 123, and advanced, 160 words correct per minute. Although comprehension declines at every step down in fluency, the sharpest drop is between below NAEP Basic medium, 95 words correct per minute, and below NAEP Basic low, 71 words correct per minute. To put these results in perspective, norms for grade 4 compiled in 2017 by researchers at the University of Oregon show that 71 words correct per minute falls at the 10th percentile. 95 words correct per minute falls at the 25th percentile. And 120 words correct per minute falls at the 50th percentile. By these standards, we can say that students in the below NAEP Basic high subgroup have below average fluency. Students in the below NAEP Basic medium subgroup have poor fluency, and students in the below NAEP Basic low subgroup have very poor fluency. Another way of putting these results in perspective is to look at the National Assessment of Adult Literacy. It showed that a skilled adult reader reads orally about 172 words correct per minute. Based on this standard, there is room for improvement in oral reading fluency at the basic level, 123, and even at the proficient level, 142. For expression, we looked at intonation, rhythm, and pausing, which groups words into phrases or larger units in a way that expresses the meaning of text. The passage expression results are similar to the passage reading results on the previous slide. We see a strong and consistent relationship between passage reading expression and the NAEP reading achievement levels. Now, all adjacent comparisons are statistically significant. We see wide variation in the expression scores within the below NAEP Basic subgroup. we see a significant decline in expression scores across the below basic subgroups, and also we see the sharpest decline from the below NAEP Basic medium to below NAEP Basic low. Passage reading expression at this lower level is well illustrated in an audio recording on the NCES ORF study website. You will notice how the child focuses on individual words and phrases rather than on larger chunks of text, and that the child reads in a monotone, suggesting a lack of comprehension. Okay, now we look at foundational skills. To remind you, word reading refers to the ability to recognize familiar words quickly and accurately, relying primarily on orthographic memory, not decoding ability. All adjacent comparisons, with the exception of the comparison between proficient and advanced, are statistically significant, showing a steady decline. We see the same general pattern we saw earlier, a strong and consistent relationship between word reading, word correct per minute, and the NAEP reading achievement levels. We see wide variation within the below NAEP basic subgroups, and we see declines across the below basic subgroups, with the sharpest decline being between the two lowest below basic subgroups, medium and low, 45 versus 34. Pseudo word reading is the second measure of foundational skills. As I mentioned earlier, pseudo words are made up words that are pronounceable, like bloot, B-L-O-O-T. The purpose here is to see if students can use their phonological decoding skills to produce the sounds from the spellings. Again, the same pattern is apparent here, a strong and consistent relationship between pseudo word reading and NAEP reading achievement levels. All adjacent comparisons are statistically significant, meaning there is a steady decline across all levels and subgroups. We see wide variation among the below NAEP basic subgroups, and we see declines across the below basic subgroups, with the sharpest decline between below basic medium and below basic low, 16 versus 11. Here is what the below NAEP basic lows fourth graders do. They read connected text with difficulty at half the words correct per minute of a fourth grader performing at the NAEP proficient level. They misread 1 out of every 6 words. They focus on individual words, phrases, or clauses instead of the meanings of sentences and passages. They read in a voice that is arrhythmic or monotone, indicating a lack of text comprehension. They recognize with difficulty whole words. They're likely to know when listening or speaking. They show limited knowledge of spelling sound correspondences. You can click here on your own time and listen to the audio file. In conclusion, the ORF data are correlational in nature. The study does not address the question of whether performance below NAEP Basic is largely the result of poor fluency and foundational skills. However, a large body of research has established that foundational skills are the main drivers of oral reading fluency, which in turn is necessary for reading comprehension. You can see more details about the study by using the link. And we also have additional resources for you in the next slide that you can see on your own. Thank you.